Hello and welcome to Missing BTS Hours. I'm Cindy, a longtime ARMY, and in this podcast, I am discussing BTS under the context of their hiatus and ARMY's relationship to them during this time of scandals, of enlistment, and generally the lack of live content together as a group. It will be also lots of reminiscing and keeping up to date with their various activities, both online and off. This podcast is for you, ARMY. Let's get started. What is up, you guys? No, I'm not starting that way. So today's episode, current news related to BTS right now and what's trending under their name. So first things first, if you hopped on J-Hope's live that happened on the 11th of the month, and it was titled For Real, For Real. He, again, was just like on live talking to folks, talking to ARMY about a lot of things. I think he recorded this and was on live in LA. He's been in LA. The purpose and the business as to what, who knows, honestly. But again, ARMY is speculating, so am I, that it's probably music oriented. He's probably doing something related to music. He might be collabing with someone here in the States, or he might be producing tracks or music here in the States. So that's very exciting, super exciting. But another thing too, within that live, J-Hope was eating, having a little mukbang session. He kind of mentioned a little something and teased a possible tour. He goes on, he's like munching on something, he's eating, and then all of a sudden you just hear him say like, "Oh, so you guys want to tour, right?" Insinuating something. And again, ARMY goes wild. Comments are everywhere stating what's going to happen. I'm not ready. I haven't saved up enough money, because me too. The big question here is he relating to a possible solo tour the same way that, August D, SUGA, Yoongi did? What would a J-Hope solo tour look like here in the States, as well as like an international one? And I would be really excited for it, and I really hope he gets all his flowers, because his solo albums that he released before he went to the military and during were amazing, and it really showed his style of hip-hop and rap that I think a lot of people need to hear, because it's definitely different from RM's stuff or even Yoongi's August D stuff. So I'm really, really excited for that. I feel less and less excited about the idea of it being a BTS related tour, is the fact that HYBE announced BTS's comeback to be pushed back until 2026 instead of the original date, which was going to be June 2025. What does that make me feel? A lot of things. I feel like this podcast is just going to keep going until 2026 probably, because it's again hard to imagine more months without them having some type of group related activity together or a tour. I was anticipating this 2025 tour, and since 2025 is only a month away, I just really want this to happen so fast. But again, we can't rush perfection, and I think that's what it is. I just really hope that this happens soon, and I really wish the boys a good transition from their lives from 2023 to now. In the meantime, though, I mean, they're not completely starving us, right? I think the fact that J-Hope was able to hop on live, even though he didn't necessarily have to, the fact that Jin has been making constant content and just his own solo work as of yet. He's going to release a new solo album titled Happy, which is awesome. It has very rock ballad pops type of feel to it. Something that feels very much him. His voice is so good for those genres, and I'm more than excited. For the Christmas spirit, Kim Taehyung from BTS is to release an era-bridging remix of White Christmas with Bing Crosby. And this iconic song, White Christmas, is perfect, since we're having the holidays coming up soon. This wasn't super out of left field. He has always had a great admiration for jazz, and his Layover album was exactly that. He was so into that jazz feel. I wonder how his voice is going to blend with Bing Crosby's. They're both, I think, in the same register. They have that deep sonnet type of voice, and I think hopefully it blends in well, but I don't think it would be one-dimensional at all. And another news as well, coming out next month would be RM's Right People, Wrong Place documentary. This is very exciting because it got picked up by the Busan International Film Festival. So this documentary is essentially about how RM basically created Right People, Wrong Place. And how it tells this very specific story and a very personal story of RM It's the final chapter of his 20s. He prepares for military service during that documentary. He is offering a very personal glimpse into his life as Kim Namjoon instead of RM, the persona, BTS's leader. It's going to be a very visual experience. Whoever is behind this documentary in terms of production is really going to want to invoke a sense of nostalgia. In nostalgia, in this sense, it's RM just kind of expressing the need to be a human again, and the need to like remember his own chronicle of youth, his own sentiments about how he's lived his life. Really, he named his entire like crew Team RM, which is super endearing. And I think Team RM here is trying to make this project feel like a small town thing. We're just documenting this cool musician who's done a lot of things, and he's trying to encapsulate such a big moment of his life, and also a huge transition. That's very honorable. It's a very great thing, but also, how do you encapsulate a grand person like RM that's done so many things in his own right as a solo artist, as well as piece in legendary K-pop supergroup BTS, right? This is gonna be a crazy documentary, and I really want to see it soon. So yeah, December 5th it comes out, and yeah, it's just a special record in general. So the fact that we'll have an attachment like a visual documentary on it, it's gonna be super exciting, super noteworthy and memorable for armies that are just missing his face on a screen, even if it's in this specific aspect of just his solo work. The more we see of RM's personal side, the better. So we get to understand him as a musician, but also as a human person that has made mistakes, that has made many accomplishments. So I'm very excited. This is song recommendation for you as you wait for BTS. I have this one song that has been stuck in my head for a long time. It is Toxic Love from Cold. Cold as in Colde. And he is a Korean songwriter, R&B and rap artist. He has collaborated with RM before. I like to call him my cult classic of K-pop because if you know about Cold. He has such a versatile voice. It's soft and melodic in a lot of his work. He knows how to manipulate it to sound super sweet, but he knows the hip hop structure super well based on his older work as well as his past duo work with On and Off. Please listen to it. He has gotten so much recognition both in the Korean and Western scene, and he's currently touring in Asia right now. Just check it out. Something that happened during the summer was SUGA Yoongi's DUI scandal. It sparked a lot of controversy, a lot of public outcry, especially from his home country. That's a whole other conversation to get into. He, to me, is my inspiration to be more creative. His persona in the beginning in BTS always had he had this hunger in him for success, for not necessarily fame, but just recognition that he is a musician. The facts are he drank too much one night when having dinner supposedly, and decides to, instead of taking a cab or god forbid drive himself, he decides to instead drive a mobile scooter. This mobile scooter has a seat attached to it, so it's more like an e-bike. For convenience, he was only not even a mile away from his home, decides to use and rent out this scooter even though he was pretty much intoxicated, inebriated, and decides to do it. He goes in and he's at the foot of his gated community, of this gate that he's supposed to get into, and he falls with the scooter. It obviously caught attention in the street. A couple of police officers or officials came over to him as they saw him fall with a scooter, and that's when they got him with that and got him with the DUI. It's crazy to me. He had of course he had to apologize on Weverse, but also just publicly did pay a certain amount of money for the fine. And I have talked to everyone about this specific thing because it just shows again how human these musicians and these artists can be. He means a lot to me, and the fact that he got into that type of scandal just is so heartbreaking. It just shows how human he is to make a mistake like that. It is a mistake to drive anything while intoxicated. Again, I'm just glad that it didn't escalate any further. He wasn't in an actual full vehicle. Here in the States, a DUI is obviously first you think of a car. This scandal makes me miss his music even more, or the possibility of new music, because I know that he has it in him, and maybe his creativity might have been sapped. Who knows? These are assumptions that I make. I miss him dearly. I miss him a lot, and I think it must be hard to transition your life of musicianship and your life of being a celebrity in the way that they were, into this whole idea of like just being a regular civilian. It just must have been a lot. And I hope he is coping well, better mechanisms, and that I wish him the best. He has been such an inspiration to me when it comes to mental health. And I think this DUI scandal must have, impacted his own mental health with the help of really healthy coping mechanisms. One of them for me being music. And I bet one of his is also music. Again, making assumptions here, but this is the persona that I have in my head of his. Supportive army are there to kind of acknowledge that, he made a mistake, but yet continue to support his activities of being able to recuperate from that mentally. That is my take on the SUGA DUI scandal. There's so many things that BTS is genuinely missing as a group. All these new K-pop acts that have been super successful, are really successful on their own because of the music, because of their image and the way that they've been able to put the work in. But I think a big part of it also is the fact that BTS is missing from the scene, and I don't want to treat it as like a very like objective like fact, but it's kind of feels like a fact. That's one thing to note too. BTS news is very sparse, so it really is able to be encapsulated in such a small time. But main highlights here is that J-Hope has teased something that was really huge. Hopefully that actually comes true and it comes into fruition that a tour is happening. My feelings about Yoongi as of late remain the same. I still support him 100%, and I hope that he is well, although we don't hear much about him. Same thing applies to the rest of the members. There it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please let me know if there's anything you would like to hear in this podcast. It'd be great to make this very interactive as well. Episode 3 coming out really soon. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on Missing BTS Hours. Again, I'm Cindy, and I really hope you enjoyed listening. I always place the things that we talk about in the show notes, so check that out. And also subscribe to Missing BTS Hours to stay with us for each new episode. I also have an Instagram page at Missing BTS Hours, and we'll be posting updates and reminders of new episode launches, so also check that out. We will see you soon. Thanks.